Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're live, and this is the video edition of the audio podcast of the Special Chronicles show podcast on specialchronicles.com. And stay tuned to the audio podcast that you can find on specialchronicles.com/listen if you would rather listen or download the audio program to listen when you are driving or walking, or because you can't watch video when you're driving or walking. I guess you could. But this is the exclusive podcast interview conversation with filmmaker Roderick Stevens and award-winning actor and self-advocate Connor Long. And I forgot to tell you guys before going on air, but this will be a little bonus video opening segment. But I like to think of it more as a conversation, a fun conversation between friends instead of an interview. So
you bet.
So let's go ahead and Connor, I forgot to tell you in the pre-show if you had any Special Olympics medals like you see in the background here, you could have worn it or had it in the backdrop.
Yeah.
But we'll just have to have you on again, Connor, for another interview in the future, or another conversation in the future.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go and press record, and then I'll point to you.
Perfect.
Go.
My name is Connor.
I'm Roderick Stevens.
And we
and
are
we're from Learning to Drive.
And you are listening to Special Chronicles podcast.
Giving respect.
And a voice to people with special needs.
This is Special Chronicles. Giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
You're listening to the Special Chronicles show podcast on specialchronicles.com. And joining us today on the Special Chronicles show podcast are award-winning actor and self-advocate Connor Long and filmmaker and director Roderick Stevens from the upcoming new short film Learning to Drive. Connor is an award-winning actor and a Special Olympics Colorado athlete who has appeared on the ABC News in Denver. And Roderick is a writer, director, producer, editor, and most notably a cinematographer on over 25 feature films, and for a decade is an award-winning internationally collected fine artist. Welcome to Special Chronicles, Connor and Roderick.
Thanks,
you.
Daniel. Thanks for having us.
So Connor, I first found out about you and your story through Special Olympics, and when you started co-anchoring on the ABC News in Denver, and then Roderick, I found out about you through Connor when I think I saw on Connor on your Facebook page you had posted that you are starring in this new short film Learning to Drive. So that's kind of how I found out about your film, Roderick, is through Connor, who is the lead actor in your short film, and I was telling you before before going on air that I wished it was a little bit longer of a film, but why don't we begin by having you both introduce yourself to our listeners, and for Connor, tell us what disability you were diagnosed with. And
Perfect. Okay, let's start with me. Hi, I'm Connor Long. I'm an actor, advocate, and athlete from Louisville, Colorado. That's where I live. And I was diagnosed with a gluten-free diet.
Diagnosed with what?
A celiac disease.
Oh, right.
The celiac disease. And Down syndrome.
All right then. Well, I'm Roderick Stevens. As you said in the introduction, I'm kind of a multi-format, multi-discipline artist. which also just means I'm an artist with ADHD. I can't stick to one thing for very long. And but among other things, filmmaking was always my number one passion, and something I've had one foot or the other in for the last 25 years. And I hailed from Arizona in a house that my family and I built with our own hands on 16 acres in the middle of nowhere. And learning to drive is pretty much my life right now. That's my day job and my hobby, and consumes my every waking moment.
Neat. And I think I'm Roderick. I in preparing for our time together today on the show, I think I read that you have a brother who has Down syndrome.
Of course, yeah. So of course, I have a brother named Andy with Down syndrome, who was the inspiration for learning to drive. The film really came from back in '97. I had two profound realizations regarding Andy and our relationship. One was, it's important to go back and preface this with the fact that we as a culture have grown tremendously over the last, century, and certainly even over the last 25, 30 years, 40 years, with regard to what we understand about intellectual disabilities and things. And so, my brother is 42. He's turning 42 here this year. And so certainly when he was born and he was first diagnosed, there's a lot of information that made its way to our mom. We were raised by a single mom, so it was just her. And then subsequently that information she passed on to me that was incorrect and inaccurate. And among other things, one of the things I came to realize was I had no idea that I'd always assumed that Andy having Down syndrome just sort of automatically precluded him from being able to get a driver's license, aside from his capabilities. Just, well, he has Down syndrome. They don't give licenses to people with Down syndrome. That's what I assumed. And when a friend of mine pointed out to me the folly of that thinking, of course it was a bit of a slap in the face, because my brother had been pestering me for a long time to teach him how to drive, and I kept dismissing him because what's the point? What's the point in teaching him how to drive if he can't get a license? And in the end, realistically, no, Andy wasn't going to be able to get a license because of his specific limitations with reading and hand-eye coordination and so on. But my assumptions, nevertheless, were wrong about his potential for getting a license just because he had Down syndrome. And it just made it painfully obvious to me that at that moment, I was the only one standing in his way in that regard. And the second realization, which gets touched on somewhat in the film, is the fact that I was so overly concerned with his well-being from the standpoint of almost being his father, that again, the same friend that pointed out it's possible for him to get a license, when I would say, but what's the point? He would say, the point is that it's just fun. He's your brother and he just wants you to teach him how to drive. That's one of the things brothers do. And, I happen to be kind of stuck in this father son kind of role with him, because he was 8 years younger than me. And again, we were raised by a single mom. And so I just kind of ended up in that role. And that was another big realization for me. And when those things happened, I just thought, well, I can't be the only one that's wrong about these things. And I just felt like it was something I wanted to share and turn into a story. And I wrote the first draft of the screenplay in 1998. And, it's all because of my brother, Andy, pestering me to teach him how to drive.
Neat. So, Connor, do you have any brothers or?
Actually, I don't have a brother. I have a younger sister who's younger than me, who's actually 20 right now.
20. And you're 20.
And I'm 22. I'm
22?
the older brother.
Older brother. Awesome. Well, before we get into more talking about this awesome short film that I'll definitely be recommending to all of our listeners to go and watch the film or see a screening, which we'll get to all that information at the end of our program today. But I thought we'd I guess I could, but I'm break the internet. I could our radio listeners would just hear the audio, but I'm going to attempt to share the screen, and so we can share the trailer for your film, for your short film Learning to Drive. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
So hopefully we queued up. Can you see that?
Oh, yes, I can.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm not going to do full screen because I don't know what's going to happen. But let's go ahead and take a listen to the trailer for Learning to Drive.
Oh, not hearing any audio.
Yeah, for me.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. I forgot if I play from the computer, I have to turn a knob on the mixer.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, let's take two. Let's start try this again. Let's take a listen to the audio of the trailer for Learning to Drive.
I don't know where it is, but cartels will cut you to pieces. They find you there. And you just hobble your lip and be reasonable.
Can't drive it on the farm no more. Can't go back there.
I don't want to drive on a farm. I want to drive to a job or to the store. Like Russia Brady.
Well, this ain't no Dave Lamb TV show. And besides, you can't drive on the street without you got
Without a license.
Yes.
Help me get one.
Get one? You! A license! A driver's license!
It's longer to the Grand Canyon.
I've been thinking, Vegas. Huh?
This farmer's mom would take her to the Grand Canyon.
Look, it's time for us to start a new life. An opportunity's presented itself, and it benefits us both. But it means a fresh start's in order.
No, sir, I don't like it.
Mikey! I cannot emphasize enough the urgency with which I must insist that we begin anew.
Mr. Botham, let me put this plainly. If he can pass the test, he can obtain a license. Quite simple, really.
Well, did you hear that? Now we all know I can get a driver's license.
Why are you so hell-bent on this, Michael? What's the point in you getting a license anyway?
Hey, Red. How about that, Mama? I'm taking you to the Grand Canyon. Are you the mechanics?
Awesome. Let me turn that knob back down. And awesome. So, Roderick, you shared a little bit about how this film project got started, but I thought we could now switch over to Connor. And Connor, do you want to share with us a little bit about how you got started with this film project, Learning to Drive?
I actually heard about this movie from Roderick, that he made a short film about his brother, as I recall. Although Andy doesn't take direction very well, so he decided to make this movie about me, the role of Michael.
Awesome.
I'm anxious to know about the film. So I got used to the script, remembered all my lines. I did a good job on the set.
Awesome. So, Roderick, can you share with us a little bit more about how this this film project got started? You before we played the trailer for the film, you showed that you first wrote the script in 1998, and can you share with us kind of picking up from there of
You bet.
of how this film project got started?
You bet. So yeah, you know, I wrote the first draft of a feature-length screenplay in '98, and then tinkered with it off and on over the years, but was never really thrilled with it. There were two key points that were of utmost importance to me as I developed the project. One was that I didn't want this to be my story. I didn't want it to be, you know, to me, every time we see a movie, you know, that features someone with an intellectual disability like Down syndrome as an example, it's so often about, you know, the other people in their lives and what it's like dealing with that person with the disability. You know, and it's because what do most of us know about what it means to have Down syndrome? I can't relate to that, you know, any more than I can relate to living in Ethiopia or something like that. So it's so easy for us creative types to write from our own experience. But I was determined that this be Andy's story and not my story. And, you know, it was a challenge. Every time I would work on the screenplay, I kept, you know, it kept sort of finding its way into my perspective because, of course, that's the one I've been living with Andy for the last, you know, several decades. And the other thing that was really important to me was I feel like every time we see, again, a movie that features someone with a disability like this, it's always a heartstring tugging drama, you know, that I love. I love dramas that make me bawl my eyes out, but it's not always that way, you know. I mean, it's fun and entertaining and happy and joyful, and there's all kinds of fun stuff and spunky and quirky and feisty, and you know, there's all kinds of personality. They're just like with everybody else, and so I was determined to find the humor in the story. And I kept having a hard time with that. Well, then in 2013, so 15 years later, it just sort of hit me, for this story, the answer to solving that first issue was to have the Andy character, which in our film is named Michael and played by Connor Long, to have that character take the car and go on his own adventure, and we go with him, and that helped me solidify that this is his story. And so even though the first part of it, they're all together, just knowing that he was going to take the car on his own helped me, you know, better develop the rest of the film, the rest of the script with his perspective in mind. When that sort of revelation came to me in August of 2013, I decided right then and there that I really wanted to do a short film version of it rather than a feature at the time. And I wanted to actually write it and produce it and do a short film. I didn't have the energy to try to pull off a feature at the time. And I thought, but you know what, let's do a short film of this so we can show people what this might look like. And so I sat down. I was doing an art show, my other day job at the time, in Park City, Utah, and I sat down and pounded out a 30-page short film script and then set out to start, you know, developing it. And of course, over the years, I had considered having Andy play himself, and, you know, would kind of tinker with that once in a while and work with him, but yeah, he just doesn't take direction from me very well. You know, everything I would try to get him to say or do, he'd kind of take it off on his own tangent. And, you know, I just felt like he wasn't going to respond too well to a production, to being involved in a production. And so, you know, I don't honestly even know how Connor and Brian got word about the film and the fact that that we were going to be casting for this short film. I'm not even sure how they got word, but you know, when you're doing a film production, as soon as word gets out, you start getting pummeled with, you know, actors, you know, sending you their headshots and so on. And so I got this email from a Connor Long in Colorado, you know, saying, "Hey, I hear you're making a film. here I am. And I just filed it away with all the others I was getting at the time. And then, I don't know, a week later or a few days later or something, I get a friend request on Facebook. And my first thought was, man, this guy's persistent, you know? and I still didn't know anything about who this person was. I just knew he was an actor. And then when I happened to click on the friend request on Facebook, that was the first time I saw his picture and saw that he had Down syndrome. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, let me pay more attention. And so that's when we started some correspondence. And again, my day job at the time was as a fine artist, and I was doing art shows, and we happened to be speaking in the winter or spring. And I said, well, I'm coming to Colorado in the summer to do some art shows. So, you know, let's get together. And we did, and we got to spend some time together, and I got to interact with Connor. And Connor, you remember coming to see me at those art shows up there?
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah, up in the first one, I think it was up in Breckenridge.
Yes, Breckenridge, yes.
It was the first time we met. And, you know, I was immediately hooked. I mean, I just thought he was fantastic and responsive. And, you know, one of the things that I keep telling people about that's been a great revelation for me, because, again, my experience has been with my brother Andy. You know, of course, I volunteered at Special Olympics, and, you know, I did things throughout my life where I interacted with other people with varying intellectual disabilities. But for the most part, you know, Andy has been my cornerstone of expectations and experience and so on. And I went into this film expecting to have to do line reading, what they call line reading, you know, where basically I'm kind of telling, you know, my actor what to say and how to say it. And I figured I'd have to be kind of doing things one line at a time. And, you know, when I cast the other role, Kevin Coble for Red, you know, I was warning him, you know, listen, you're going to have some patience for this, because it might be a tedious process to make this happen. And boy, did Connor prove me wrong. I mean, right out of the gate. I mean, he showed up and knew the entire script, could just flow through entire scenes without any kind of prompting. And the great thing was, not only did it make the short film production a lot easier and more successful than I expected. I mean, it exceeded my expectations, to be sure, but it also then gave me some real freedom to further develop that character in the feature screenplay, which I'm now developing, you know, which I'm now writing. And so, you know, that character has really expanded and gotten more complex because of what Connor showed me he could bring to the role in the short film.
Neat. So are you planning on having Connor to stall in the feature film as well? And
well, you know,
the other.
I don't want to, you know, speak out of turn. You know, you'll have to, you know, audition. But yeah, you know, he's definitely my front runner. I mean, I'm literally kind of, you know, writing the role based on my experience with Connor. You know, and especially when, you know, we shot for a week in the winter of 2015. First week of January 2015, and we ended up with some nasty weather coming in, and it killed our schedule, and you know, we had to accept right then, okay, we're not going to finish this film, so I'm going to have to scrounge up some more money and raise some more funds and get us all together to film the rest of us, maybe this coming spring, or maybe this summer, or maybe this fall then. And then, so we ended up a year later in January of 2016 getting together for a week again to finish the film. And it was really that second unit shoot that really hammered a lot of what I'm saying home. And I think a lot of it had to do with, by that time, Connor and I had gotten to work together some more. So there's even more, you know, comfort and familiarity. And I really think that the fact that we have sort of an established relationship now, I think really lends itself towards the idea of developing an even more interesting character for the feature. So, yeah, that's my long-winded way of saying, I'm hoping that Connor and I get to work together again.
Neat. So, in total, so now the film is about to come out. I believe I think you've got a link where people can approach the movie, and now that you are going to be screening this short film, it's been 16, 17 years from when you wrote it to now.
Yeah. I mean, the first draft was copyrighted in 1998, and then this short film version of it was finished in July of 2016. So it's been a long road. It's especially been, for the most part, my sort of full-time gig for again the last 3 years. I wrote that version in August of 2013, and it kind of took over my life from that point on.
So, when are you planning on the feature-length film with Connell and the other cast?
Well, I'm in the middle of rewrites right now on the screenplay, and one of my my underlying tenets with the short film and then with the feature is I have a tendency, and with a lot of things in my life, to rush things. I'm a kind of a hyperactive, super productive kind of guy, and that's great, and that's worked out for me in a lot of ways. But for this project, one of my underlying tenets has been that it takes as long as it takes, and I won't rush it. So for instance, right now, the screenplay, I just still feel it needs some further work and development, and I don't want to move forward on it until I feel that the screenplay is just top notch, is just as good as it can get. And so I'm not really sure. I mean, I would love to say that I'll have that script where I want it by maybe this summer, and then I got to go through the steps of trying to raise investors and get people interested in supporting the film. And that's a lot of what we're doing right now is about. Is we're holding screenings around the country and filling theaters. I mean, our premiere was at a 500-seat theater, and we almost completely packed it. And we've got some other screenings coming up where I'm looking forward to filling the theater. And part of the purpose of that is so I can show investors, look, there's an audience for these films. And so it's a worthwhile investment. And but you got to go through all that, and so.
Awesome. A year ago, we had last spring we had I co-hosted a screening for the documentary Cully's Hollywood by Brian Donovan.
Sure.
If you've if you know of Brian, but with a couple of my former special ed teachers and one of my Special Olympics coaches, and then my nonprofit Special Chronicles, and so off air we'll have to talk about maybe how we can get a screening of this short film here in the Chicago area. I'm in the western suburbs of Chicago, but in the LaGrange Park area is where I'm based in. But yeah, I'm sure we can talk more about that off air, and then I'm sure it'll be awesome to have you, and also Connell will be also excited to have you as well to come here to the Chicago area.
Yeah, that'd be cool, because I have a friend that I did in a film called Wiener Dog.
Yeah.
She lives in your area. Her name was Bertha Brown. She was a good friend of mine.
In Niles, you said?
In Chicago.
Oh, in Chicago. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, our guest today, plural, our guest today on Special Chronicles Show podcast, our award-winning actor and self-advocate Connell Long, and filmmaker and director Roderick Stevens from the short film Learning to Drive that I very much recommend that all of you listening or watching this program right now to go and definitely make plans to see this film. Why did you decide that you wanted to write and direct this movie, and how long? And I have a related question for you, Connor, on this, but for Roderick, why did you decide that you wanted to write and direct this movie, and then as well as how long is the film? Because I think I saw, the screening that I saw was about 26 minutes.
Yeah.
Then I saw that you've got a 19-minute version and a 28-minute version. So I think the screening that I saw before we went on the air today was somewhere right in the middle of those two versions that you have. So kind of how you came up with those three different, I think 19-minute, 26 minutes, and 28-minute, those three different lengths, and as well as why you wanted to write and direct this movie.
Yeah, you bet. Well, first, I guess I should clarify. There's actually only two versions of the film. Okay. The 28-minute version was my first sort of finished cut, which was finished back in July, and then I sent it out to get a bunch of feedback from people in the film industry and some people out of the film industry, and from that feedback, I ended up trimming it down to the 26-minute version that you've watched, and that's what I call my director's cut. Now that will end up a little longer in the end, only because we have a lot of thank yous to add to the credits at the end. And so, I mean, literally potentially up to a minute's worth of thank yous. I'm not sure. But, so that'll make it a little longer again. But basically the 26-minute version is the director's cut. Well, knowing that we would be submitting to film festivals and that a lot of film festivals have a hard time programming shorts that are longer than, say, 10 or 15 minutes, you know, for them to accept a 26-minute, let's say, short film means they've got to turn down 2 or 3, 8 to 15-minute films that are probably really good. So it makes it really hard to get our film programmed into short film festivals or into short film programs in film festivals. So I got to say on that note, super thrilled when we juried into the Sedona International Film Festival, which starts next week, because that's a really prestigious film festival, and I was just really excited that we got into that one.
And that's where?
Sedona, Arizona. Yep, Sedona International Film Festival, and it's February 18th through the 26th, and I'll be up there for about a week, attending the screenings and doing Q&As and some filmmaker workshops and so on. So because of that, I edited a shorter version of the film specifically for submitting to film festivals, and that's the one that's like 18 minutes and something. Yeah. And and honestly, we're not sure which one is showing in Sedona, because they originally, when I asked them, they said the shorter version is the one that had juried in, but then when you look on their schedule, it shows us as 30 minutes long. So I emailed and asked him, and he said, "Oh, I'm not sure." And I said, "Well, do you want me to bring them both?" And he said, "Yep." So I'm kind of hoping they'll show the director's cut, because I like that version. It's got a little more humor in it. It's got a whole subplot that's not really in the shorter version. Yeah. So that's that. As far as my why, what prompted me to want to do the film, it just comes down to what I said earlier about having had those realizations about my brother and about our relationship. I just, I'm pretty fascinated by human behavior. No one's more than my own. I'm pretty fascinated by my own, how I process information and where it comes from and how it changes and how it impacts my feelings. And I just felt like there was something that I was experiencing that that could be shared, that other people could appreciate. They would relate to either similar confusion or struggles, or one way or another, they could learn something from it. What I keep telling people is I have two goals or aims with my audience as they watch the film. And one is that I'm hoping that people with intellectual disabilities who watch it will feel inspired and motivated to express themselves. I'm not hoping that I've inspired a lot of car thievery, but I am hoping that plenty of them will say, oh, yeah, here's what I want. Here are things that I would like in my life. And that's really the crux of what I'm hoping the rest of the audience takes away from it, which is it's not just about the capabilities of people with intellectual disabilities. I mean, that's something that we have to address, is the fact that they're often more capable than we think they are. But I think really what I want to focus on with this film is their desires. I think that's one of the important things that gets discounted by so many of us, is how much people like my brother want all the same things the rest of us want with regard to independence and respect and the ability to do things like drive and have a license and have a job and have a family. I just don't think a lot of people realize those desires are there. And I think really that's a lot of what I wanted to get across in this film is the idea of paying more attention to what they want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of, why did you want to be a part of this short film, Unloading Ted Drive?
When did I first start acting? Or why would I be? Okay, let's get to my screen now. You're the answer. All right. Hey. So, what I heard this movie, I thought that Learning to Drive was a really good film, short film. I always thought that my role, Michael, has a really good perspective to the action that I gave in a direction that Roderick would give me. So I'm getting used to the role and getting a good personal aspect to it. And I kind of like it.
Awesome.
I really
Awesome.
like that.
Awesome. So if you sum my phone up, that's because I was doing some Instagram stories on at Special C Podcast. So just to give all listeners and viewers a short 15-second trailer for both of you guys. So how Roderick, how did you come to cast Connor Long? You touched a little bit in one of our first segments about how you met Connor, but kind of picking up from there, how did you come to cast Connor? Because it seemed like that he was the first in the short film, and you don't have a lot of characters in cast in the film, but it seems like that Connor was the first person that you needed to cast in the film. So how did you come to cast Connor?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Once I decided for sure to do the film, there were two things I was very determined to do. One was one of the things that I said earlier about allowing the film to take as long as it was going to take, without rushing it through. I kept saying, we will take as long as it takes for the film to be made to the level it deserves to be made. And the other thing was casting, is just, I mean, it's I think the most important part of a film production is casting. I mean, that's where all the miracles lie. And so, one of the things I did was hire a casting director out of New York to help me, fill these roles.
Yeah.
And she in particular especially focused on the role of Red, Michael's brother, because it was a challenging role. I had given him some pretty quirky and challenging dialogue because he's very verbose, kind of like me, and but uses language to kind of sort of manipulate a little bit, because he's trying to convince his brother Michael of various things, and so it's just kind of a tough role. Well, she in the meantime had sent me a couple of other possibilities for Michael, and so I just kind of kept in touch with Connor and his dad Brian while we were going through the process, and I got some video submissions from others, just a couple for Michael. We ended up getting over 2,000 submissions for the brother Red, and then our casting director narrowed that down to I think 80 video submissions, and then from those 80, my family and I sat in my living room and watched all 80 auditions and narrowed it down to 3, and picked our favorite of those 3 and made the offer to Kevin, and he took it. So there's that. And then in the case with Connor, once I'd seen a couple of other auditions, I don't deny I was already kind of hooked on Connor. He had a little bit of favoritism going there with me. And so, once it came down to it, I made Connor and Brian an offer that they could refuse, but chose not to. So that was nice. And they jumped on board, and there we go.
Awesome. And I saw at the end of the credits that you have somewhere got tons of notes. So sometimes hard to read the handwritten notes, but your son Roderick Stevens Jr. Is the guy, is the one is he the one who's carrying a guitar case and and is traveling?
Yeah.
So you put him in the movie, and then I saw that the name of the call, which is I have it somewhere in my is Bruce.
Yeah.
That you is briefly why you decided to kind of have your son kind of walk through. I think not every scene, but like a few of the scenes. Like in the beginning, and I know definitely at the end, and then the name of the call.
Yeah. Well, Roderick, there's a couple of things. Roderick's band, Wake Up Joel, is who did the soundtrack for the film. So like the music video you're thinking of playing, that's his band. Awesome. And so besides doing about half the music that's in the film, his character was actually larger in the original version of the screenplay that we started shooting. He was just sort of a symbolic character that we just kind of keep seeing on this journey that Michael has been going through. And he was originally, he had a larger role where, as you saw in the film, when Michael gets out in the on the playa there on that dry lake bed, he was actually going to run into this musician who's just sort of, traveling across the desert. And then we ended up rewriting that role. So, in the end, Roderick just became more of a little cameo. We see him 3 times, I think, in the film, just kind of on the side of the road. And then at the very end, walking down the tracks. The car is named Bruce simply because my whole family and I, we're all big pop culture nuts. And we're nuts for the movie Jaws, and the mechanical shark they used to make that movie, they had named Bruce. And then we're all big Batman fans, so Bruce Wayne. So as a family, we call ourselves Team Bat Shark, and so that's my son-in-law's old '77 Toyota FJ40 that we used in the film. And which I just thought was the perfect car for this particular story. Awesome. And it happened to be great too because we could remove the roof in order to do one of the this sort of complex shot where the camera travels through the car, to Michael saying, "Well, did you hear that?"
Yeah. Awesome.
So there we go.
Yeah. You mentioned about Batman, and I don't know if Kano, if you or if Roderick, if you saw the new movie, that new Lego Batman movie that I think that just came out
2 nights ago.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Let me say that I did not see Lego Batman because I was kind of busy with other stuff, so I haven't had time watching the film Batman. But it's kind of crazy. I got some Lego Batman games, which I own 2 of them.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed.
Yeah. I haven't seen it as well. But this past Friday night, I was at the Chicago Auto Show. I think it's the biggest auto show in the country, and this past Friday night they had a First Look for Charity event, and I was there with Special Olympics, so we had to wear tuxedos because it was a black tie event.
Yeah.
And I had 4 hours of sleep, and then the next day I had to record a podcast in the afternoon and had to work and everything and swim. But at the auto show they had this car that was made out of Legos, and it was from the new Batman Lego movie. But I don't think I posted the picture, but maybe now that I mention it on the show right now, I'll try to put a link on my Instagram at Podman Dan, but I haven't posted it yet. But I'll actually I think if you look on the at Special C podcast Instagram or my post on Facebook page, I think I put a picture up of that. So that's a neat connection there. Kano, you want to share with us a brief synopsis of this short film? From your perspective, what is this short film, Learning to Drive, all about?
Well, I would say it's about Michael, as Rod suggested. He's taking this very hard. He's trying to connect with his brother, who I think is the best character in this Learning to Drive. Both of them have a conflict in one of the scenes, and they had an argument, and they're trying to make it up. So Michael goes out, grabs the keys, grabs a hat, he goes into the car, and he drives Mama to the Grand Canyon, but then he gets lost and tries to pick up hitchhikers who look like prisoners, which I find it very ridiculous.
Awesome. Roderick, now, do you want to share, since Kano described that film now from your perspective? I'm sure he did a great job at giving us a brief synopsis of the film, so I don't know how you can top that. Exactly. But now from your perspective,
well, the log line for the film is it's inspired by the true story of a feisty young man with Down syndrome determined to convince his scatterbrained brother to teach him how to drive. It's a road movie that explores the relationship, so briefly between these two brothers. One of the things I like to emphasize about it is it's a road movie that just happens to star someone with Down syndrome. We just had a great review come out in the UK. And by great review, she enjoyed the film. A lot of people have enjoyed the film, but what I really appreciated the most about it was the fact that she hit on the head the fact that Michael having Down syndrome is not the focus of the film. That's just kind of part of it. This is almost a role that could be played by any young person that wishes their brother would teach them how to drive, and it just so happens that the person that stars in this one has Down syndrome.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that more films and more stories should kind of follow the same format that you, Roderick, did. Whereas when more filmmakers write a movie that they should, have the will to be able to have anyone to be able to cast, but then have people like Connell and other people who have Down syndrome or autism, or like myself with learning disabilities, or anything than to be able to cast them in, just like what you did. And I think that's a because then that will be a perfect inclusion. And I don't know if either of you have heard the term inspiration porn, but that's a pretty big term in the disability community. And I think what you're doing here is a perfect way that's not inspiration porn, because it's seeing Connell and other people just in everyday worlds and everyday things. So Connell, can you share with us how you got started acting?
Oh, yes. Now we're going. So, when I was young, I started acting at a young age in Maryland, where I actually grew up. And I went to a Black Rock Performing Arts Center, and they put on some shows that I actually remember. One of them was It's All Great to Me. I did that once. I played the evil Elroy in that production. It was the first acting gig that I did.
Neat, awesome. And I'm sorry, I have to pull up the Google Doc again. And you already shared with us how you heard about this movie, but can you share with us, Connell, what is your favorite scene to film?
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe one of the scenes would have been a moment between both Red and Michael, because Michael was in the car and Red was outside.
Yeah.
Because I think that he was a bit drunk, which I can recall. And we have the moment right there. I put his hand on his shoulder, and we have the moment right there. The other things I gotta say, like don't pick up hitchhikers. Anything. Never bring up prisoners inside a car as they're going into Mesa Verde. The other things, oh yeah, Michael got excited when Officer Salena told Red that he is eligible to get a driver's license. He did his picture dance.
Yep.
Neat. And our guest today on the Special Chronicles show podcast are award-winning actor and self-advocate Connell Long and filmmaker and director Roderick Stevens from the short film Learning to Drive that I absolutely recommend that all of you listeners go and see a screening or get the DVD or Blu-ray. Definitely go and see this film. And Roderick, maybe some of those scenes that Connell just shared with us, that was his favorite. Maybe those were some of your favorite scenes to film and direct, or maybe you have other favorite scenes that you had to direct in this film. But can you share with us?
You bet. Well, I definitely enjoy. I forgot what the first one Connor said was there, but I definitely love at least those two, because they're, to me, a lot of what the movie is about is, Red being schooled by this state trooper that there is no law precluding him from getting a license, and for Michael to overhear that, he's like, okay, so because he his brother is who's caring for him now that their mom is deceased, and so he's kind of relying on his brother Red for information, and Red tells him they don't give licenses to people like you.
Yeah.
And so for them both to learn otherwise is of course the center point of the film. That's what it's about. And then and so I love that moment in the script, and then I love how we translated that photographically, and again how we shot it and how Connor acted out Michael's excitement at learning that information. And then the playa scene, what I enjoy about that, besides the fact that it's just kind of a fun scene and a fun interaction between Michael and these other characters, part of the whole point of it is to show, part of the point in this story to me is showing that balance between what Michael is capable of and yet what he still needs help with. Just like any of us, there are things that we can do and things we need help with. And so the point in that scene is that he remembers someone identifying the things that this car is doing and suggesting that it might be the coil wire.
Yeah.
And so Michael, expresses that. He's like, it might be the coil wire. And so there's something he can do. He can retain information and share information. He's not necessarily a mechanic. He doesn't necessarily know what a coil wire is, just like a lot of us.
Yeah.
But he can express that. And then conversely, the help he needs is, here are these guys that might know what a coil wire is. And we're not really sure if they do, but but at least the suggestion of a coil wire, one of them looks and sees there's a wire that's not attached. So he attaches it. Sure enough, that fixes it. So, it's another representation of his, it's sort of empowering, to see that he can make that decision. And then in the case of this short film, the fact that he also makes the decision to, for one, assert himself when the one escapee is saying, can we get a ride? And he's saying, okay, but I am going to the Grand Canyon. Don't try to steer me anywhere else. That's where I'm going. And then, he decides to just leave anyway, because he's like, I don't know about these guys. So I think that's a pretty valuable scene. And I hate that that scene is not in the film festival cut. So
It's not?
No.
So I guess then that will mean that those who see the film in the film festival would then have to get the DVD of the film.
Because both versions will be available on the DVD, the film festival cut and the director's cut.
Awesome. Connell, did you, prior to filming the short film, did you already know how to drive, or did you learn how to drive while filming this movie, or at the moment that scene at the motel room, is that the moment that you first started learning to drive, or did you already know how to drive before?
Well, I haven't driven a car since, because I'm actually older. But my sister knows how to drive, but not in this film. But I am. That makes more perfect sense.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that I described when Michael was getting ready by getting the keys, the hat, he got into the car and first tried to get used to the driving. Then the Red wakes up and notices that the motor started. And I have to psychically remember. Wait, I'm missing that somewhere again. Psychically, I'm trying to say that. Okay, so I remembered the how to put the feet on the pedal and use the cistern to pull back.
Yeah.
And then you wipe off, and that is how specifically driving was. Yes, I don't drive. Like you said. I don't drive. Yeah, I don't drive yet. So the learning to drive is kind of learning to drive.
Neat. So, Kano, how did you become involved as an athlete in Special Olympics in Colorado, right? You in Colorado?
Yes. Let me get to the point here. Okay, so when I was young, I started soccer. After that, I did basketball. I did this when I was young. I did both of those. And after that, in February high school, I ended up doing swimming. I've done it 4 years. Got done twice. And I moved on for other swimmings at Special Olympics. And I got a lot of awards.
Neat. Like you, I also swim. So how I first found out about your story, Kano, as I said at the top of the program, that you co-anchor on the ABC affiliate in Denver, Colorado. How did you begin that?
Yes, let me get to the point here. Once I heard about Denver 7, some reporter or someone that works at Denver 7 called me down, and I started to meet the crew of Denver 7, and they want me to cover some stories that I've done in the past. I worked so many stories with my friend Hannah Atkinson, who's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
We have covered a lot of stories of sports, and now we're actually official Denver 7 reporters are reporting other stories of everyday humans.
Awesome. So hopefully more TV networks can follow what you're doing on ABC in Denver. Switching back now to this film, Loading to Drive. Roderick, in the one of the scenes in the movie, they stop at a motel, and that scene it kind of reminded me of. So when back when I was, I think in 8th grade or maybe even before, I forgot the exact time frame, but with my family we were going up to Quebec in Canada, and we were driving from Chicago there, and we went through the Niagara Falls, and then we went down back into the U.S. and then back up. So we're kind of going zigzagging in and out of the country. But in upstate New York, we stopped at a motel, and I never saw this movie, but my mom and my grandma said that it was like the Bates Motel. And even though I never saw the movie, I whenever I see a motel kind of like that, I think of that. And so in the scene in this short film, it kind of reminds me of that. Did you kind of, that motel, did you kind of, I think I saw a picture on your website of for this film that you guys built that room. But can you share with us briefly about that? Did you kind of make the motel room kind of like the Bates Motel, or did you?
Well, basically, I spent a few weeks trying to find our location, our actual location for that motel for the exterior, and I looked. What I wanted specifically was, something that just had that older, rundown desert motel, kind of in the middle of nowhere, with a fairly empty parking lot and one story, no elevators or anything. And I looked. There's a street in Tucson that's just full of cheap motels, and I looked at all of those, and then I headed east on Interstate 10, and I went through Wilcox and Safford, and I went into New Mexico, and I just kept pulling into all these small towns looking for exterior motel locations that I thought fit what we were looking for. And I ended up narrowing it down to, I found one I really liked in New Mexico, and I found two possibilities in Wilcox, Arizona. And and ended up settling on the one there in Wilcox, and approached the owners, and they were fine with us filming there. And so once I had that exterior locked in, then we could go build our interior set to kind of match with that. And the reason we built the set, we actually have a video on the DVD, and is part of the making of that, where we get into some of the details about building the set. But it was because I just had some really specific ideas about how I wanted to see the brothers interact in that room. And one of them was I wanted a good clear shot of the two of them on either end of frame facing each other, and kind of showing this distance between them. And there's some background imagery that happens that is also kind of demonstrates the disparity between them. And we could never get that shot in a practical motel, because the camera actually had to be about 6 feet into the next room, which wouldn't work in a real motel, whereas, we could remove the walls to do it here. And then the other reason to do it is just so you can control you can control sound and lighting and that sort of thing. And so that was one of the things I was most excited about, was the fact that we could build that set so we could control exactly, the environment they were going to be in.
Awesome. I'm looking at the audio recorder, and we have 14 minutes left on the SD card that I have. So we'll try to kind of go through the rest of this quickly here. Our guest today on the Special Chronicles Show podcast, our award-winning actor and self-advocate Connor Long, and filmmaker and director Roderick Stevens from the short film Learning to Drive, that I absolutely recommend that all of your listeners go and see. Roderick, can you share with us briefly on how can we include more people with special needs or disabilities in Hollywood, in the media and films and TV? Because as you know, and Connor, I'm sure as you know as well, that those of us with disabilities were the largest minority group in the U.S., but with the least seen. So can you share with us briefly about how can we include more people like Connor and myself? And
right, that as we all know, that's become a big issue in our culture and in our pop culture right now, is this whole inclusion thing, and including more minorities and altering gender roles. And to me, nobody talks about, or very few people talk about, the disability leg of that same issue. And to me, this is all, it's all one thing. We need to be working on how we appreciate all of those underrepresented components of our culture. And so on the one hand, it's a matter of, we just have to keep making noise. We have to keep reaching out and getting the word out that listen, lots and lots of people have varying disabilities. Therefore, characters in movies, can have these without that disability becoming the star. It can just be a part of that character. It makes them more complex and enriches them. I think the number one thing any of us can do, though, to try to make these changes is do the work ourselves. We got to get the word out to other people who make, who are content creators. But I think bigger impact comes from us just creating the content ourselves. What can we do to put it out there? So like with this media platform at Special Chronicles, I've been doing this for 8-9 years now, and with the podcast, and also I write an award-winning column on kind of the same on special needs stories. So I guess all three of us are award-winning with one things, and exactly,
and just like Roderick, you I just lost my train of thought though. But
well, you're doing the exact same
Yeah,
you know,
and
doing it.
yeah, 8-9 years now, and Roderick, you've been in the film industry, I think over 25 years. I think you've said it, and Connor, you've been in a lot of short films now, and on ABC, and so, you share with us, Roderick, briefly about what did you learn? What did you learn from Connor as you produced and filmed and directed this short film, Learning to Drive?
You know, I think for me, it's what I alluded to earlier about how his ability to step into the role, you know, far exceeded my expectations. And I think for me, even more than how Connor ended up improving the short film from what I had originally intended it, I think I'm even more excited, as I said, about how that has opened up the possibilities for me as a writer on the feature film, and how I feel a lot more comfortable. You know, when I was writing the short film, you know, I felt kind of a little shackled while I was writing it, because I just didn't know what I would be able to get out of that character, out of that role.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I made it a little simpler than it turned out it needed to be. Whereas on the feature, I'm kind of pushing those boundaries. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. You know, if anything, I may be hitting the envelope, but that's great. I think that's how we all learn. So
awesome. And Connor, what did you learn from acting in this short film, Loaded to Drive?
Ooh, okay. I acted so very well on the set that one of my favorite memories on the set was actually I don't know how to put this, one of my favorite meals that I actually like when I'm not on the set, I would eat mac and cheese.
Awesome. And Roderick, can you tell us briefly about your brother Andy? Yeah, your brother Andy, and briefly how he relates to the character of Michael, who's played by Connor Long.
Yeah. Andy, you know, I showed Andy the finished film when it was all done, and his response was, yeah, you know, that was pretty good, I guess. And he had some suggestions. You know, he felt like in the motel room scene, he should be a little more angry, and you know, and I was like, well, you probably should have told me this about a year ago, Andy. We're all done now. But he loved it, and he's been going to you know, as many of the screenings as I can get him to as possible. He was at our big theatrical premiere in last October in Tucson, and we're doing a sort of a homecoming premiere here in Southeast Arizona where we filmed the movie, and Andy will be there, and so he's certainly enjoying the attention and the fact that the film is about him and, you know, his experience, and he's pretty intrigued by it.
Yeah. And have Connor, have you met Roderick's brother, Andy?
Yes, I have. He got on the set of Learning to Drive. I met him. He was a good person. Yeah, he's like a best friend to me. Mm-hmm. That makes me a brother-in-law to you, Rod.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
A brother, you said?
Brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Oh, brother-in-law. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're now related.
So, Roderick, how did you come up with the title for this short film?
Yeah, well, you know, of course, I just went with sort of the logical, when the script was first being developed, you know, that was just sort of the logical title, was it's about him learning to drive. Well, the script has changed a lot since then. You know, in the original feature screenplay that I was writing, you know, it kind of ended up with the brother teaching him how to drive. So that made sense. And then this script ended up going a little bit different direction, but I wasn't sure what to call it, but I just kept calling it Learning to Drive. And then while we were in the middle of putting this film together, another feature film called Learning to Drive came out in 2014, I believe it was. And again, I was torn about should I change the title or something, but I just felt like it had been Learning to Drive for so long. I just wanted to stick with it, and I figured we probably wouldn't have much overlap with this other project. Admittedly, that's not going to be the title now for the feature, the new feature that I'm developing, simply because the new feature has kind of gone in a new direction with it, somewhat like the short film, where it ends up not about him actually learning to drive. You know, I mean, you see the focus is somewhat on that because he pays really close attention to his brother and the things he's doing when he's driving, and then applies them. So I mean, that is a component of it. But yeah, there you go. So I'm not yet even sure what the title of the feature is going to be.
Yeah, awesome. Well, when you do finish the feature film, we'll have to have both of you back on the show to talk more about the feature film. But can you share with us, Connor, what your family and friends, how they reacted to you being in this film?
Well, truth be told here, I've gotten so a lot of friends on Facebook that they end up as being my fans. And everybody loves to be there. Well, since I got a lot of fans, I was thinking of doing a fan page for Facebook.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And they all like this film that you're in?
I got a lot of comments on the film of Learning to Drive. We got some good comments on Facebook that... Wait, was the comment on Facebook? Let's see. Oh, I remember now. There was a comment on the YEA that one of my friends from that already has been in the YAA, the Young Artist Awards, actually said to me that I actually won, or actually congratulated me on my nominee for the YEAs. And I feel so happy about it. And I feel so bad. Yeah.
And what's YEAs mean again, Connor?
Oh, the Young Entertainer Awards.
That's right, Young Entertainers. That's right. Yep.
Awesome.
I got it from that.
Awesome.
And yeah, my family is very happy and proud.
Awesome. So, Roderick, where you mentioned near the beginning of a program, one of the upcoming screenings that you have, and it was one I believe, and
Okay.
and can you share with us where some of the upcoming screenings of where people can see this short film, and then Connor, if you after Roderick shows with us a couple of the upcoming screenings, any of the ones that you're going to be at with Roderick.
Like one of them's going to be in Omaha this week. Yeah, I'm not going to enter that. Yeah, I'm going to enter that.
Yep. So Connor will be there with me. Our next screening is next Monday. Is it the 20th in Omaha, Nebraska at Film Streams, and Connor will be there, and I'll be there, and we'll be doing a Q&A and so on. And then for the next week after that, we'll be screening a couple of times at the Sedona International Film Festival. Connor won't be able to be there at that one with me, but I'll be there. And then February 28th, Connor and I will both be at the Building for Change fundraising event in Colorado Springs for the ARC Pikes Peak region. And then the next day, March 1st, is when the ARC PPR's film festival is, and Learning to Drive will be showing then, and I think Connor will be there with me for that as well. I'm not 100% positive. And then the next day, we got 4 days in a row of screenings. The next day, March 2nd, we're doing an invitation-only screening at the C Film Center in Denver in like mid-morning, and a lot of people from the disability community there will be coming to that. We've got like 50 people coming from the ARC thrift store as an example. And then the next evening, Friday, March 3rd at 7 p.m. at, again, the C Denver Film Center is our Denver premiere of the film. It's the one standalone screening we're doing up there. And then March 10th is the ARC of Colorado's Film Festival, also at the C Film Center. And I think the film shows 3 times on that day. And then the next one after that is our big homecoming premiere here in Sierra Vista, Arizona. And Connor and Brian, and as well as Kevin Coble, Connor's co-star, as well as the 2 escaped convicts, the 2 actors that play young Michael and young Red when they were kids in the opening sequence. They'll be there. So that one's a big hoopla.
When is that one?
That one's March 25th, and we're doing the premiere screening is at 6 p.m. and then we're having a big VIP dinner with the stars afterwards. And again, all the actors will be there, and a bunch of the sponsors that have helped make the event possible will be there, and so we're having a big fancy schmancy deal there.
Awesome. I think the SD card, I think stopped recording in the middle of talking.
Oh, in the middle of that spiel, you bet.
Yeah, but since it's a good thing we'll record in this this live video.
Yeah.
So I can just take the audio. I'll be extra post production, but I'll just take the audio from the video and put it on the audio. So that's good. How Connor, if you want to share with our listeners, how can our listeners host a well, this might be better for you, Roderick. How can our listeners host a screening of the film? And I'm sure we'll talk more off air about seeing if both of you want to come out here to the Chicago area to for a screening here.
Yeah.
But how can our listeners host a screening?
So, we have a whole variety of possibilities there. We do have what we call institutional licensing available, to nonprofits and schools and organizations and businesses where they can just license a projectable quality version of the film, and it has lots of other special content, and we'll have a discussion guide and so on, and they can license the film for that if they just want to have their own thing. So for instance, the ARC of Tennessee is having their big mega conference in May, and they'll be showing the film there. In other cases, we've approached different communities, and we see what kind of support we can get there, and what sort of venue we can find, and and then we help them put on an event and help promote it and get sponsors involved and create all the printed promotional materials, and in an ideal situation, we're able to get enough sponsors on board to raise the money to fly me to wherever it is, and to fly Connor and his dad out there to wherever it is, so we can be there for a Q&A and to chat about the film. So it kind of varies from city to city, but we're open to anything we can do to build the audience for the film.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure if we can try to get a screening here in the Chicago area, we'll have to do another maybe even a shorter in-person live conversation with the 3 of us, and maybe even Special Chronicles could live stream the question and answer with you and Connor.
You bet.
So Connor, how well, first, two other questions that I had in my notes here. When does the story? I should have asked this at the beginning when we started talking about the film, but when did this take place? When did the story?
Okay,
Well,
the story takes place.
Oh, like the time frame.
Yeah. The time
Yeah,
frame.
it's pretty ambiguous. We don't really nail down a specific time, but I wanted to give it the feeling of, say late 70s, early 80s. And so we purposely kind of tried to avoid anything newer than that. And fortunately, we were able to come across these older vehicles. As I said, Bruce, our hero car, is my son-in-law's car. And then I was actually going to be dressing up a different car to be our trooper's vehicle when I happened to attend our local Christmas parade and saw this old vintage police car, patrol car, in the parade, and it belongs to our local Cochise County sheriff. And so I got in touch with him, and he said, "Yeah, heck yeah, we can use that in the film." So, yeah, it's kind of ambiguous, but late 70s, early 80s, and I'm writing the feature to be sort of similar.
Awesome. And then I saw at the in one of the pictures that you have in the credits of this film, of the short film, you have a picture of Malchus from the book Black Day, the Black Day book, which I have. What do I have? I have it right on my bookshelf right here behind.
Perfect.
Behind me, because I met him at the National Association for Down Syndrome conference this past. When was that? I think it was October 1st to kick off Down Syndrome Awareness Month.
Right.
But Connor, have you or Roderick, have either of you guys met Malchus from the Black Day book?
Okay, here's the thing. I know Marcus a long way back when I was going to Nebraska already. That me and Dad went to. We ran into Marcus in the Mother Sakura, and we get together. We actually had lunch or breakfast somewhere.
We're good friends. We're going to see them.
Yeah, we're going to see them next week in tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, radio listeners can't see us, but for any of our viewers watching the video, here's the Black Day book that I'm sure both of you guys have.
Yeah.
As well. How can or where online can our listeners connect with both of you, with Connor and Roderick, and then as well as the website and social media plugs for how our listeners can learn more about the film and follow the film online and get the DVD and find screening information and all that plugs for both this short film Learn to Drive, and then as well as for both of you personally.
Connor, do you remember what the website is for the film?
Yes, there's the official site, learningtodrive-movie.com, including IMDb.
Yep. So yeah, the main website is all one word, Learning to Drive, and then -movie.com. And if you go to that website, you can see a 2-minute preview right there on the homepage is a true 2-minute preview for the film. And you'll see there's a link for some other video clips, either from the film or some behind the scenes things, some interviews, and then lots of other information on there about the cast and crew and how to order a DVD, how to license for universities and nonprofits, how to do a screening. All that information is on the website. And then also on the website are links to our Twitter. I think we've got Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. We're mostly active on Facebook and Twitter. And our Facebook page is Facebook.com/Learning to Drive. I should double check that. And, Connor is pretty active on there as well on our Facebook page. Let me double check that. Oh, Learning to Drive Movie. So it's Facebook.com/Learning to Drive Movie, all one word, no spaces or anything. And so those are the two best places to kind of connect with us is at the website, and there's a contact page there, and then on the Facebook page. And then Connor's kind of all over the place on Facebook and Twitter. And what is your Twitter handle, Connor?
Twitter handle is a 321 Go. I think it's a letter 3, not so pretty, not 3.
Right.
But the 20 is been.
So isn't it like 3 spelled out and then the number 21?
No, it's yeah, that's Instagram. Yeah, that was Instagram, not the THREE.
Gotcha.
On Twitter, it's actually the number 3,
Oh.
and then 20's been filled out.
Oh, gotcha. So I had it backwards.
Okay.
Yeah, and find me on Facebook.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'll put all those links in the show notes on specialchronicles.com for episode 219. We'll probably be a little bit over an hour of an episode, but it's been an awesome conversation with you guys. So, and I'll make sure to as well as when we share the audio podcast and video with the listeners to tag the film and to tag you, Connor, as well in the film. And Roderick, if our listeners want to connect with you online as well, the best place is on the Film for Loading to Drive. Yeah, the film website or the Facebook page. Yep, those are definitely the best. Awesome. And we can talk about this as well, talking about the screening. But can we give? I should have mentioned to you before going on the air, but can we give away a copy of the DVD to one of our listeners? Absolutely. They're not quite available yet, but yeah, if you want to proceed with that and get me their info as soon as they're available, which should be in just a few weeks. Okay. Yeah, we'd love to give away a DVD. Okay, awesome. So we'll put as soon as we can get that together, we'll put the details up on specialchronicles.com in our newsfeed of how people can enter to win that DVD. And any before we let you both get back to the end of the day, thought we could share the audio or the music video, the song "Slip Again" by Wake Up Joe. Can you set that up briefly for our listeners and viewers? Yeah, so I assume there are 2 different versions of the song that are in the film. So I'm not sure which one you're playing, but one is the version of the song that sort of starts the movie. It's in the intro with the credits and the characters when they're smaller. And then there's an acoustic. That's the one. Okay, and then there's an acoustic version that plays, during the motel room scene, and boy, has that one gotten a lot of attention. A lot of people really like that song, but I love it, and it's Wake Up Joel. They're an indie band. They've got their first album is already out on iTunes and Rhapsody and all that, and this is from some new material they're putting together. This one they put together just for Learning to Drive. So awesome. Awesome. Well, before we get to the final thoughts, to wrap up our time together, I thought we could just take a listen to the song "Slip Again" by Wake Up Joe from the short film Learning to Drive. Yeah.
Everything you say rambles in my head. Try to catch my breath. Try not to move my head. Now this is the poison I am ashamed in excess. Down out into this, mine to indulge. Pray I stay in this skin. Pray I don't slip again. You were lighthouse. You were control. I was a danger, digging a hole. You were a lighthouse. Plenty of reasons, just not making sense. Some understanding, just forgot what it was. Trying to keep my shit straight, trying to find something. When I think of how long it took, something so small rattle me sideways, leaves me in awe. Life but I feel no grace, clean but there's so much pain. Years and years since defeated to die was a lighthouse. You were control. I was a danger, digging a hole. You were a lighthouse. Yeah, you were control.
Awesome. That was a song "Slip Again" by Wake Up.
Thanks for checking out the LTD YouTube channel for all things pretty dry.
I forgot that.
Yep. A little tail on there. Yeah, so, well, thank you for sharing that. I know Wake Up Joel will be real appreciated.
Awesome, yeah. And if you could send me the links to that song and to your son's band, I'll put links to that in the show notes for our listeners to go and check out that song as well as your film. So, any final thoughts, Connor and Roderick, on your overall time here today that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Okay, but first can I talk to Rod for a moment?
Yes.
Perfect. Rod, thinking about those other film festivals, I'd like to host another one in Louisville, Colorado. Is that okay? Is that okay with you?
To host another screening?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where at? Where you want to do it in like Louisville or something?
Yeah, Louisville, Colorado. Yes.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't try to get something together. Yeah, let's try to make something happen up there. You bet.
Awesome. So our listeners hold it first on this program, Special Chronicles, Connor.
Yeah.
So do you have any final thoughts on your overall time here today that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Right, let's start with me. I hope you get a chance to see and enjoy the film. I hope everyone will like it. And thank you very much. I'm Connor Long.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the time. Thank you for inviting us, Daniel, and for spending some time with us and sharing our project with your listeners and viewers. And yeah, I look forward to any further questions. I'll send you some links to all these assorted things we've talked about. And yeah, there we go. I'm real grateful to be here.
Awesome. So I'm sure Alfeo will be talking about maybe as well how we can get a screening here in the Chicago area, because I'm sure we'll have lots of people who will want to see, and especially will want to meet you, Roderick, but also probably more importantly will probably want to meet you, Connor.
Yeah.
The lead of this show, Film Learning
Yep.
to Drive. So
Yep,
our guest today on the Special Chronicles Show podcast, I have been award-winning actor and self-advocate Connor Long and filmmaker and director Roderick Stevens. Thank you, Connor and Roderick, again for taking the time to come on the Special Chronicles Show podcast, and I hope to meet you in person someday in the near future.
I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you. Thanks a bunch, Daniel.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
Awesome. Well, now I don't have to stop the audio because it ran out of. That's what you get for recording like 5 or 6 days straight.
Right.
Like 6 episodes now that I'll have to edit. But let me go ahead and stop.